Hola friends, welcome back to my channel. On last week's video, I had shared a couple of ways that our family is maintaining our well-being while we are at home during this global pandemic. I had also mentioned that this week's video would be a part 2 to our COVID-19 coronavirus experience while we are here in Mexico. Long story short, I accidentally deleted that part 2 video that was recorded at the same time and had to restart. I did re-record a couple days ago, absolutely hated it, trashed that take as well. So today I'm going to share with you guys our updated experience of what it's like being in Guadalajara, Mexico right now. I'm going to take you guys on a couple grocery shopping trips, a trip to the market, as well as a drive around the city. And then I'm going to answer our most asked question, when and if we are returning to Canada.
Harian, Karian, Nename, Akame, Kurinde, Mukande, Udare, Apare, Harian, Karian, Nename, Akame.
Already sweating so much. Daddy just ran in to grab something we forgot, and we are having a cookie snack before we even hit the road. So we are going to take a little bit of a drive around and see how the Periférico is, the ring road that goes around the city. See how busy it is, to see just kind of what shops that are usually open have closed their doors. Just kind of check out the city. We drove all the way up to the top of Tower Mountain, as we like to call it, just to kind of see how different parts of the city are being affected by the virus. There are quite a few people wearing masks that are just simply walking around, but I'd say still the majority of people aren't. So we decided that we would just let them sleep since our sleep schedules have been crazy, and head downtown to Guadalajara Centro, the San Juan area, one of the biggest markets in the city, and just kind of check it out and see what it's all about today. We took Avenida Chapultepec on the way to San Juan Market, and it is usually a very busy, very popular Ave. Every day I think it is, they have an artisanal market. Today I think they had like 6 booths set up. The restaurants, most of the restaurants are open, but they don't look busy at all. I'm assuming they're still taking takeout orders, but even with the restaurants, quite a handful of them have their doors shut completely. In the San Juan de Dios area, and it is so dead. I thought quite a few of the stores are still staying open, but down here that is definitely not the case. It is Friday afternoon. This place would usually be packed, so busy and so much going on, and yeah, it is completely dead. So I think we're on about day 35, 36 in our family's self-isolation. For the past month, we really just have been staying in our own little safety bubble, only going out for the basic necessities. It was really interesting today to see how some of the places that we used to visit regularly on our out and about adventures are completely shut down. So on the same timeline that we are experiencing this, I'm also in contact with my family back in Alberta, Canada, And it is quite interesting to see the different phases throughout this global pandemic that we are in. March 16th, schools in Alberta and in Canada and here in Guadalajara were officially closed. So the girls stopped school at the same time as my sisters did back in Canada. But going forward and how the communities and the culture has really affected how people react to the situation has definitely been different. That initial week that the state decided to close down schools, they also had a 5-day mandatory quarantine. At that point, pretty much everything was closed, including the tianguis where we get our weekly produce. It did seem though, once that initial 5-day quarantine was over, everyone was back to their regular day shopping and businesses were open. The fact of the matter is the majority of people cannot just take off a week or a month of work and expect to still be able to feed their families. At the same point in time, up in Canada, people were going absolutely nuts over toilet paper. I am quite happy to say that our grocery stores are still stocked up with toilet paper and all the basic necessities. Typically, we take 1 day for markets in the week and 1 day for groceries. So when we go to the grocery store, Jerry will stay in the car while I mask up and bring my hand sanitizer, get the things we need, and get out. All right, girls, be right back. Here I go. Bump, bump. The bags, going to brave the grocery store. The same goes for our market days. If we hit up the market that's closest to our house, we take advantage of the outside time. We'll all walk together in the direction of the market. It's just a couple blocks away from us. And Jerry will take the girls for a little walk around the neighborhood while I go into the market space, again, masked up, and get the food that we need for the week. As far as other people taking precautions in this time, I do notice that there are quite a few people with masks and gloves and taking these preventative measures, but there are still a ton of people that either wear them incorrectly, as in they have the mask below their chin or up on their forehead, not actually covering their mouths, or they're wearing gloves and pretty much entire plastic suits, yet they're touching their phones, they're touching things, and then they're touching their faces. In regards to crowded environments and preventative measures, I have noticed that the tianguis, the lower income resources, don't wear as many masks and gloves and have hand sanitizer on hand as readily available as the big grocery stores, the commercial franchises and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's just kind of the scale of income and availability, if it's the information that they are being given in regards to where we are in this pandemic. Whatever it may be, I have noticed the difference in a couple of different environments. Like most choices in my life, I tend to kind of just go with my intuition as to what choices, what path is best for my own health and the health of my family. And that does not change even when there's a global pandemic. That being said, as an expecting mom, I do try to take the precautions to keep myself and my growing baby healthy. In general, as a family, we are pretty healthy people. We try to eat as many whole foods as we possibly can. And this leads us into the most asked question: if and when we are returning to Canada. And the answer is we don't really know at this point. This question didn't even come up in my own thoughts until my mom messaged me one day and said, your grandma is quite worried about you guys and suggests you guys come home ASAP. And although I love my grandma incredibly so, we're not coming home at this point for a couple reasons. Reason number one being, I do not want to be anywhere near an airport or on an airplane at this point in time. Although the virus per se doesn't necessarily scare me, the chaos and the stress and the hectic procedure of just getting back to Canada right now is not really something I want to put myself through as an expecting mother. Reason number two, I do feel very strongly about having baby here in the safest environment to bring our new baby earthside. Combined with the other two factors, it really did just feel right in my heart to give my Canadian midwife team spot up to another Alberta mama that was facing the fear of having to birth in a hospital in Alberta and that really wanted that home birth experience. Our initial plan was to have a home birth here, birthing baby at the end of June, which also was perfect timing for the girls' schooling as we entered into summer break. Of course, school is no longer in session, but I am still pregnant and baby still has an approximate due date. We're going to take that month after baby is born to kind of get our ducks in a row, fill out the paperwork. My mother-in-law was going to be coming down after baby's birth and then helping me with our then 3 kids fly back to Canada while Jerry drove the car back. Now that the United States borders are very closed to everybody except for essential travelers and citizens, him driving the car through the States right now doesn't look like a likely option. Now, if this would have turned our world upside down a year ago when we first moved, I probably would have hopped on a plane and went back to Canada. But we really do feel settled here. We feel home here. We've been in our apartment for over a year now. We're not going from Airbnb, place to place, rental to rental. So it really does just feel comfortable. It feels right to stay here until baby is born, we get all the paperwork done, and take our time to get back to Canada however that process unfolds. Really, nothing much has changed over the past couple weeks. We are learning to get a little more creative in keeping the kids entertained. They have had way too much screen time for my liking, and we order pizza at least once a week. But in the grand scheme of things, in reality, our lives didn't really take any wild changes. Beforehand, the girls would go to school in the mornings, Jerry and I would have work time, and the afternoons would be spent as a family, either at the park or we'd go for a drive, we'd check out some new scenery, whatever it may be. Now our family time is just more so. The girls are doing some Zoom classes with their teachers and their classmates, but essentially time is still really just spent with us 4 as a family right now. Unfortunately, we cannot go to the parks and playgrounds as those have been all closed off since schools were closed as well. And of course, I am sure a lot of you can resonate with this. Although we didn't go do a whole bunch of stuff beforehand, now that we can't or these things are closed is when we want to. So just kind of resisting that frustration that the world is on pause right now. Everything's closing down and we kind of just have to sit back and breathe through these changes. One pointer that I do want to leave you guys with is do your own research. The conspiracy theorist side of my brain is really working through what is going on in the media, the news, the forefront is hiding from us what's happening on the surface and what's really going on in the background, and digging deeper into it all. That can get extremely overwhelming, extremely draining if you find yourself too deep in that rabbit trail. When I come into the more spiritually minded side of myself, my Kundalini practice, my yoga teachings grounds me into the divine design. You can't find your ballet suit. Oh.
No, my shoes.
Your shoes, I think they feel grounded in the divine design, as we call it. I do believe Mother Earth is purging so much negativity and corruption as we speak, and that this Aquarian age that we are in is really meant to push us through the sludge, get us through the darkness, and find a more beautiful world. Speaking of a beautiful world, if you have not checked out some of the amazing shares of what is going on in the world when people are stuck in their houses, it is absolutely phenomenal to see the wildlife and nature and Mother Earth herself just start to reclaim herself. And it is a really beautiful perspective to take when, as humans, we feel caged, we feel stuck. So much of the world is doing incredible amounts of healing. That is where I'm going to wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed a little sneak peek of what the city looks like right now, how we are managing in our corner of the world, what's going on in our own little home bubble. If you like today's video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel, turn on alerts so you don't miss any Mama Om videos, and I will talk to you guys next week.